Spanning from the depths of space to the lonely decks of Earth's last ship of war, humanity's one hope of ending the Terran War lies in a fleet attack on an impossible target. As hostile fleets converge and destiny hangs in the balance, each throb of its engines is a defiant howl aimed at the cosmic status quo, a flicker of hope and terror co-firing across the universe. The war had been long and unrelenting, a battle between ancient and mighty civilizations, whose power and knowledge swept millennium after millennium. These empires and their myriad subdivisions of bureaucracy and technology had long regarded humanity as little more than historical molecules in a millennial tale of conquest and revenge. To these galactic behemoths, Earth was nothing more than a sleepy little backwater planet with a smattering of primitive ambition, unworthy of its place among the stars. But little did they know that the tide of galactic war was about to be forever changed by an unlikely challenger. Inside one of the many hollowed-out asteroids orbiting Earth, trapped in a billion-dollar cover-up, but filled with the undying spirit of humanity, one single warship had been prepared for a task that none had ever dreamed possible. Built with a combination of rugged innovation and unconventional engineering, this ship was not intended for glory, but for survival. Its hull weather-beaten by any number of tests and simulations, each stain a testament to humanity's gritty determination. It was not overwhelming power or monstrous size, but a weapon with ingenuity at its control set that could somehow twist to target whatever its enemies devised even better and faster than they imagined it could. In this craft, every element carried the valiance of a species that had always battled adversity. On board, steely determination and quiet resolve were etched across Commander Elena Vasquez's face as she surveyed a dim control deck. She had long been ready for a fight that many deemed impossible, a fight against adversaries whose fleets were as expansive as the void. Elena's eyes, framed with the burden of both loss and hope, revealed the personal stakes of this enterprise. Memories of home, of a relatively peaceful Earth now caught up in interstellar politics, sharpened her perception. Every choice she made would either guarantee a future for humanity or, in its silence, seal its doom. Her crew was a motley crew of veterans and brilliant scientists, all of whom shared her determination to see to it that this mission's end changed Earth's tale. The warship blasted away from its home planet and into the inky blackness of space, a strange feud carried by the voices of the elders who had seen it all before, the prideful races who killed and killed again, the withered alien admirals and ancient scum on the brink of death, the neutral observers who watched the war from the sidelines, long having deemed the conflict a mere sideshow to the wonders of the universe. They were led by imperious commanders who embodied arrogance and exuded certainty, and they considered humans nothing more than an anomaly, a blip in the cosmic organization. Their battles were choreographed demonstrations of tacit precision and incomprehensible force, each maneuver honed over hundreds of years of fighting. They had honed methods that allowed no error, certain that a single human warship was a mere afterthought, a small pebble that would be crushed under the mass of their predatory fleet. However, creeping below the bravado, murmurs of doubt started to echo among the ranks of these old-world empires. Battle fleets did not have a habit of surviving, let alone shaking the status quo. Behind the angry banter of the alien admirals, their chatter, voices of doubt, and deep-seated suspicion that this human warship was more than just a momentary flicker. The stakes were enormous. If this lowly ship were somehow destroyed, it would act as a dire warning to anyone attempting to disturb the cosmic status quo. Yet if it succeeded, it would upend many assumptions about power, technology, and the nature of warfare itself. For the first time in the conflict, the galaxy was united in its fixation with a single, challenging act of resistance born of species long left to the dark. On Earth, the political and military elite held their breath. Every radio transmission, every secret message passed between rival factions, was cloaked in the hope of a people whose continued existence now rested on the courage of a few dozen men manning a ship that should have been impossible. There was simply no room for error. The future of humanity in outer space was inextricably linked with the success of this audacious endeavor. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Failure would not only destroy a priceless ship, but snuff out the flicker of human aspiration itself. leaving Earth to rust away, lost among the stars. But in the stillness of the universe, right as the warship descended into the storm of the enemy forces, every single member of the crew struggled with his or her own inner devils and indomitable faith. A ship filled with the genius of our species, battered by the tide and still refusing to go down, adapted, every system humming to the beat of a heartbeat. The music of our lives lived forever fucking outside of the box. To humanity, it was not just a military affair. It was an existential struggle. It was a fight to demanding their right to be heard and seen in a universe that had denied them a voice for too long. The stage was set for an 11th-hour confrontation, a David versus Goliath parable writ large against the backdrop of interstellar war. Under the watch of distant stars, the human warship inched closer to the enemy's lair, a source of unspeakable provocation to those who thought themselves invulnerable. Ancient forces within the galaxy had no idea what was coming. They were not prepared for the turbulent consequences of a battle that would forever alter history. And so, with the burden of 1,000 worlds crushing down on its hull, did Earth's warship advance. Its passage into the maw of darkness, the opening line of an epic that would rewrite the dust and shadow of the cosmos. As Earth's warship hurtled toward the enemy formation's center, the cosmos erupted in a cacophony of chaos and destruction. A flotilla of alien ships, each built with the focus of centuries of perfected combat, swarmed like locusts. The warship's lithe shape disguised a deep-seated strength. Every plate and circuit had been hardened against one variable that would never change: overwhelm. The ship's adaptive technology kicked in instantly, unleashing countermeasures and a cloaking device that made its movements unpredictable. In this moment of frenetic brilliance, Commander Elena Vasquez and her crew became the conductors of a guerrilla symphony against the titanic armies gathered before them. In the enemy ranks, an immediate discordant note sounded. The human tactics, with their unpredictability and swarm tactics, baffled the alien fleets who were accustomed to battles fought with precise, preordained formations and torrents of fire. Instead of a conventional frontal assault, the warship conducted a series of calculated feints and lightning strikes against the supply lines and command nodes of its foes in a harrowing campaign of asymmetric warfare. These maneuvers took advantage of the seconds-long delays built into the enemy's communication systems, throwing them into confusion and leading to misinterpretation of orders. Each blow was not just an act of aggression. It was a purposeful schism in a war-fought apparatus that had never before met an enemy with such untraditional tactics. In one audacious sortie, the warship baited a smaller group of alien fighters into an ambush within a shattered field of asteroids. The crew, having plotted the gravitational unares and debris schematics with almost supernatural accuracy, made the field both their shield and their weapon. Booming went the storm. From the void it spread through ripples as enemy ships collided with hidden rocks or grew caught in the gravitational field of the asteroids. The formation tactics the alien pilots were so adept at all of the sudden failed them when operated into a battlefield environment they had not been prepared for. Through the chaos, the human warship fired a volley of adaptive plasma torpedoes, tearing through the formation and leaving destruction in their wake. At the command center, Elena's voice was steady and firm. "Continue on course and commence secondary protocol," she commanded, her voice steady even with the chaos outside. Ghost's second-in-command, Lieutenant Haruto Nakamura, ran the tactical consoles with a zeal harvested from desperation and resolve. Up till the very last moment, he observed how the enemy's plans fell through one after another at the hands of the unknown, as Alex's paces darting followed by the unexpected became as much a weapon as their arms. The ship's systems, designed to learn and react in real time, started anticipating incoming threats based on slight changes in enemy behavior, a revolutionary model built on humanity's single greatest advantage, the ability to improvise. The enemy commanders, watching the whole thing from their flagship, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their tactics, refined over eons of extraterrestrial combat, had been devised with an assumption of minimal involvement from Earth. And now their calculations were thrown out the window by one warship whose every decision was contrary to expectations. It was as if the human vessel was reprogramming the code of engagement, spinning the hopeless war into consecutive moments of tactical brilliance. So as the hull of the warship absorbed and then deflected tireless barges, it struck back with pinpoint precision, taking advantage of every chink in the enemy's powerful armor. Sure enough, the first major enemy skirmish would arrive. The crew's first challenge, a coordinated energy barrage from an enemy dreadnought, which would put their shields at risk. The barrage was a calculated campaign, a show of the enemy's brute power intended to drive the warship into a retreat. For a moment, the control deck fell into a dreadful quiet, as critical systems blinked on and off. But the warship's adaptive technology, already tested to the limits, just detected the anomaly and activated an emergency protocol. Energy converters diverted power to critical defense arrays, and the ship's AI, linked into decades' worth of battlefield data, instantly recalculated trajectories and shield distributions. The outcome was nothing short of miraculous. The saturation attack's effect was greatly diminished, and though the ship shook from the shock of it, it survived with most of its integrity intact. That near catastrophe drove home the narrow boundary between survival and extermination. But it only focused the crew's determination. It was met with immediate, ingenious response to every moment of vulnerability. That, at least in the chaotic arena of cosmic warfare, the brilliance of human ingenuity could stand up to the vast and ancient power of even the second oldest empire in history. With each passing moment, the warship danced through the barrage of enemy fire, a combination of calculated risk and desperate hope, what remained of its crew desperately reassuring each other that they would make it through. The aliens started doubting their premises. One fragile-looking vehicle was enough to cause their well-planned operations to turn into a scramble for survival. For the human crew, each small triumph was a glimmer of hope, each defeat a lesson learned. But in this vast war zone, the providing to adapt ancient doctrine all against new improv was just commencing, and standards were anything but certain. And as the cosmic conflict deepened, an awareness of fear started to flow through the alien fleets. What had started as a sound symphony of planned warfare was now turning into a disharmonic cacophony of unforeseen casualties and increasing desperation. The alien commanders, firm in the certainty of their eventual victory, could not reconcile their conviction with the oddity of a solitary human ship changing the tempo of space war. Unit cohesion, formed from ancient strategies, turned to fractured groups, as Earth's vessel applied relentless creativity to their precalculated formations. The enemy flagship's command chambers were thick with tension like a suffocating fog. High-ranking officers looked among themselves in confusion as real-time battle reports flooded in, detailing inexplicable failures in their advanced systems and holes in their lines of defense. With its erratic movements and adaptive countermeasures, the human warship had successfully identified weaknesses that even the most battle-hardened alien strategists failed to recognize. All those precision energy shields, their coordinated barrages, were buckling under the fevers of guerrilla tactics that had broken every protocol ever written. Across the battlefield, whole squadrons of alien fighters were lured into deadly entanglements. In one of the sectors, a formation of sleek, heavily armored vessels tried to flank the human warship only to find themselves ambushed, the numbers they'd relied upon used against them. Drone swarms, usually the great force multiplier of any fleet, had malfunctioned as the warship's adaptive technology slipped into their systems, perverting their navigational matrices. The well-choreographed single, unstoppable wave of destruction began to resemble a staccato series of disconnected trench skirmish battles. The alien pilots were conditioned to run their maneuvers through clockwork levels of precision, yet they were no longer fighting an enemy who could even pretend to follow the rules. The enemy was rewriting them as they flew. Now the impenetrable wall of alien defenders was crumbling, confidence replaced with a panic that ran through the lines like wildfire. Across heated strategy sessions via secure hollow communications, High Command deliberated frantic measures to neutralize the improbable efficacy of Earth's warship. Others called for a full tactical withdrawal, an act that would give up strategic territory and potentially strengthen humanity even more. Others, spurred by hubris and a harsh sense of tradition, called for a second offensive, a last, desperate attempt to prove their worth. Yet as orders were given and countermeasures rolled out, it became ever more obvious. This human warship was not simply avoiding every ambush. It was methodically ripping apart the enemy's formations, one methodical hit at a time. For many alien soldiers, the fight had transformed from a clockwork exercise in subjugation into a desperate race for survival. The very sinews of their war doctrine, perfected over eons of bloodletting, now felt as fragile as broken glass. Amidst the confusion, gossip flew about at the lower levels. Talk of a human vessel that had changed the course of the battle, of a single ship that could outwit and outmaneuver whole armadas. What had once been dismissed as mere propaganda had now become a genuine fear for those who had established their confidence in the unquestioned nature of their technological and tactical superiority. Back on Earth, the implications of the developing events were not lost on the warship crew. From the aft command deck's glimmering viewports, Commander Vasquez and her crew looked on as the alien formations faltered and the enemy's previous certainty about their tactics collapsed. With every wave of plasma and every evasive maneuver, humanity's ingenuity fought back, a defiant stand against impossible odds. As the minutes stretched into the darkness, so did the determination of the team. There was no question of giving up, no thought of inability, when the very future of mankind hung in the balance. Their pulse raced, not just at the thrill of battle, but at the weighty knowledge that they were changing the history of war. In the vast saga of this otherworldly tussle, Earth's warship became a mystery of its own as smeared screens and neural pathways gone haywire made the alien fleet's damnation look poetic. The ancient powers that smiled down on humanity before could now only bemoan this cruel turn when fleets cringed in the face of the unexpected assault. And the inconvenient truth loomed. One boat, one vessel, wielded as well of Earthian tenacity and determination could upend the established order. No longer was the battlefield a space dominated by predictable trajectories and outcomes cast in stone. It had become a realm where creativity and adaptability took concerted hold. And with every second that followed, the enemy's shock transformed into frantic resolve, yet another act of desperation to regain some illusion of dominance in a war that was ricocheting toward a place unmoored in history. As enemy fleets started a desperate retreat in disarray and chaos, Earth's warship prepared its final and a daring gambit. Operation Prometheus was a high-stakes gamble, but Commander Elena Vasquez knew that it was a risk worth taking. The fate of humanity rested on these next few moments. Two overwhelming streams of data had exposed a secret weakness in the core nexus of the enemy flagship's defense network. ANSI knew that beneath all the centuries-old tactics layers, it was this flaw that would be the key to shattering the invincible armor of the alien armada. The warship's crew, forged in battle and focused on a single objective, sprang into action with clockwork efficiency. Engineers recalibrated the ship's adaptive systems, and tactical teams aligned a barrage of specialized plasma torpedoes and quantum-detonated warheads, each specifically crafted to exploit the expected momentary drop in the adversary's energy shield. For a split second, time felt like it slowed. The digital readouts flickered, and the enemy flagship's shields began to falter ever so slightly, just a ripple in an ocean of power. But that one moment, the human vessel took that chance. The warship sprang forward with a deafening roar, its engines howling like an uncaged animal. Probes flying through the ether with trajectories plotted for the battered nexus. Like lightning on a still night, the main warhead struck home, detonating in a wave of energy that surged through the enemy formation. The collision was cataclysmic, an explosion of light and matter that reverberated through the battlefield. The flagship of the enemy shuddered, and its shields dissolved into shining shards, like star stuff in the breath of a dead nebula. It wasn't just a single-point hit. It was a runaway chain reaction that swept through the alien invasion fleet. As the flagship's central systems started crashing, waves of disorder rolled through the enemy formations. Fleets that had been an integrated whole over millennia were now unable to coordinate their attacks. A panic, an emotion alien to the beings raised with an iron grip over every aspect of existence, spread like wildfire. They were the ones caught off guard, the alien admirals who once boasted untouchable superiority over their human enemies, now fleeing in panic as their fleets collapsed to wretched rags of hypoplank hissing and spilling it all in the name of victory. It echoed through the cosmos as the paradigm of the war changed in an instant. No longer were the ancient powers guaranteed a decisive stranglehold and crystal-clear victory. Earth's battleship had shown that imaginative grit and the wild human heart could upend even the most rigidly maintained injustice. The clash was more than tactical victory. It was a statement. The enemy had thought it unbeatable. Now, it withdrew from the inevitable transformation triggered by an armada that had never been intended to prevail. A profound silence swept across the crew on the warship's bridge as they saw the enemy turn tail. The frantic displays of sensor data that normally surrounded them now conveyed a surreal calm. The very fabric of battle was being rewoven. Commander Vasquez smiled briefly and almost imperceptibly for the innumerable sacrifices. One could almost taste the sacrifice. It was a bitter sweetness, leading up to this singular met triumph. It was not just a battle victory, but a reclaiming of human destiny. The consequences were staggering. Mankind, once a footnote in the great saga of epic conflict between alien species, had forever carved its name in the annals of interstellar affair. Far across the galaxy, the echo of this event changed the view. Even neutral factions, who had been impeached observers, adjusted their expectations for Earth's potential. For them, the warship's victory was a sign of the unexpected might of an underestimated foe, a precursor of a future in which humanity would not be cast aside. The alien commanders would slip into the cold calculation of war, facing their own hubris. In their wake, hushed tones of respect, clamoring for reluctant awe started to be muttered. The struggle, it appeared, was transforming into one not only by strength of strength, but also of the insatiable desire to redefine the rules of the game itself. As the enemy lines crumbled and the ancient order of the galaxy trembled on the precipice of change, far away, Earth's warship hadn't just claimed the impossible victory. It had triggered a narrative shift that would change the story of cosmic war forever. Over the following eons, once the dust of the cataclysmic blow began to settle, and the alien armadas staggered under the impact of crumbling command structures and intergalactic miscommunication, there would be silence. Bitter, bewildering silence in the battlefield-darkened void, full of the incredulity, the regret, the reluctant admiration. The alien generals, their mustaches quivering with shock, were now struggling to find remnants of a plan that had seemed like a foolproof strategy in the beginning but had quickly been exposed as a paper tiger. Their formerly unshakable confidence gave way to an awakening. The rules of cosmic war were being fundamentally rewritten by an opponent they had long considered beneath concern. In the alien side of the interstellar battlefield, surviving warships froze mid-maneuver, communication arrays whimpering with frantic, broken transmissions. A real sense of confusion took over as both fleets tried to figure out how to recover from this unprecedented loss. For centuries, these ancient powers had been certain of triumph, as if victory were foreordained in the great cosmic ledger. Now, they were forced to face a bitter truth. The improbable bravery and strategic brilliance of one human warship had knocked their certitude off balance and undermined the basis of their war doctrine. The mood on board Earth's warship was a nuanced blend of jubilation with somber reminders. At the helm, Commander Elena Vasquez stared out the large panoramic viewport from which the fleeing enemy formations traced lines of light through the obsidian darkness. The joy of the victory was tempered by the memory of fallen comrades and the heavy burden of responsibility. And while the crew had achieved victory, each of them having been scarred by the harrowing trials of battle, they also tasted the bittersweet marvel of victory, a victory paid for in unknown and immeasurable sums. They had beaten the odds, but in doing so, they had also ushered in an era of deep uncertainty. Only in private moments did the human crew come together to process the magnitude of what had happened. There were hushed conversations, tinged with rumination, inquiries about the future, the changing tides of power, and the unavoidable fallouts of their victory. The warship, once an outsized vessel in a struggle amongst cosmic giants, had become a sign of human tenacity, a lighthouse in mockery of the settled cosmic equilibrium. But with the triumph came an excruciating sense of vulnerability. Alex Ross, marvelously meticulous, Just because the alien survivors weren't going to let the defeat lie, they would regroup, rearm, and exact revenge with an enthusiasm born of bruised ego. This job was bound to keep the crew on its toes. On the far periphery of the battle, neutral parties and outside observers were once again reassessing who has been right all along. Humanity would no longer be perceived as a peripheral player on an ancient stage or an interloper passing through. The warship's amazing exhibition of tactical ingenuity had compelled the cosmos to accept a new order of things. The human spirit, empowered by innovation and an unmatched drive to survive, was a dangerous one. Word of the wind circulated quickly, sparking debates and discussions across alien societies. Some expressed admiration, albeit an admiration tinged with fear, while others seethed with indignation that the long, deep ways of hegemony that had served them so well had suddenly been upturned. For the alien leadership, the defeat wasn't just a tactical. This apocalypse was going to be the last one. It was an existential cataclysm. The careful strategies that had defined their wars for millennia now seemed outdated in the face of humanity's erratic ingenuity. In war councils in the antiseptic, dim quarters of their command bridges, leaders engaged in fierce debate. Should they pursue reconciliation, or was this the spark to light a new, if even more ruthless, campaign to regain their supremacy? And beneath it was the slightest sense of grudging respect, an acknowledgement that a human opponent had done what much of the world had declared impossible. Moved by this shift in the conflict's momentum, the living alien commanders made cautious proclamations, their voices colored with both regret and a lasting resolve. They understood, though, that the triumph of Earth's battleship was a watershed, one that challenged a reassessment of friends, strategies, and the war itself. What was once predictable was now beyond imagination, and the feeble ember of humans could now start a revolution. In that intimate moment of tension, as the opposing fleets fled into uncharted space, the universe collectively gasped. The victory of a single human ship had torn the complacency from an ancient order, and in its wake a new chapter of cosmic warfare, and perhaps hope, was being forged. The battle debris floated in the aftermath of silence like memories lost in a vacuum of space. The roar of war, which had once reverberated through the ages, had now dwindled into silent contemplation, a metaphorical pall grieving the countless lives severed by the turbulent dance of archdemons. The ship was Earth's own, battle-scarred but still defiant, a testament to humanity's coming of age on the galactic frontier. And it had won. Improbable as the victory had once been, but the balance of power in the universe had shifted irrevocably. Allies and enemies alike had to reassess where they stood in the greater cosmos. Back on the battered ship, Commander Elena Vasquez and her crew sat in silence among each other, their eyes shining with relief, sorrow, and a hopeful optimism for what lay ahead. The party was muted, shadowed by the grim toll of the sacrifices made and the price of defiance. Each fallen comrade, each damaged system, bore witness to the fact that even in victory, war required a sacrifice. But this struggle had been a rekindling, a fire in the dust of the cosmos long fossilized by the ancient gods. On far-off worlds, the whispers of the warship's remarkable exploits reverberated through the halls of alien governments and neutral lands. Humans could no longer be brushed aside as a minor player in an interstellar drama, and instead the sheer, unyielding defiance of Earth's warriors had made every one of those civilizations face the spirit-wrenching reality that human creativity, unpredictability, and pure willpower could take a vibrant fight back to even the most advanced empires. In starlit council chambers and digital gremlin farms, disputes erupted over the future, whether to make uneasy bedfellows with this species or to judge it a burgeoning threat to the status quo of power. For many, the struggle had turned into a lens for introspection. Pet doctrines of war and supremacy were thrown into doubt, opening the space for new strategies and a more cosmopolitical dialogue, however tentative. Humanity was no longer a Kyoto in the making. Their behavior had written new things as potential through the violence, and linked possession of the stars to understanding the ballistics of a non-potent event. The conflict-fighting ship's brazen stance was a trumpeting cry to the empires across the stars to ask, what if, however distant the possible future might be, one did not have to leave it to the elder worlds or keg beasts, but instead it could be to those who ran against the rigidity of the past. Yet in her moments of quiet reflection, Elena considered the legacy of their triumph. It was a win not just of technology or strategy, but of the soul, a demonstration that, even in the darkness of even the titanic empires, the light of will and bravery could make a monumental shift. The universe that had once been a place of absolute hierarchies was suddenly at a fork in the road. But as the conquered fleets realigned their strategies and the vast intergalactic society's tentative healing process began anew, one truth was evident to all. Humanity's warship had not merely triumphed in combat. It had ushered in an age in which the underestimated could in fact redirect fate. They had entered a war they were never meant to win, but in doing so they had forged the future of history and rewrote the heavens, with their names etched among the stars.